Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to another very special Lemon Amiga play guide and review where we'll be checking out Overdrive by Infacto, Overdrive Civil Defense Unit, published by Infacto in 1993. You can see some of the credits appear before we even start the game, and from the title screen we have a number of options which we can use with the joystick or the mouse. For this we'll be using the joystick, and let's just select the training area, and from here we can select our candidate to fly our ship. You can see that there are 6 candidates here, and by clicking on them twice we will select them, and by clicking on them once we will get some information like their name. And you can see that they have different haircuts and different characteristics in the game itself. I'm not quite sure, but let's just choose this one, and double clicking on that makes sure that we get to the next phase. And yes, I'd never seen or heard of this game before this review. Overdrive was made by Infacto, and in fact I'd never even heard of Infacto before, and in fact they only released this game in fact, and you can see that from that fact we have a number of missiles and we have a number of bullets to fire towards those enemies, and in this case we have a training level where we can gain a small amount of score, and I'm not sure, but I don't think this training level is part of the missions. It's just an extra world where we can learn how to fly the ship, and you can see learning how to fly the ship isn't too hard. We can play it with the joystick or the mouse. And at this stage I'm just trying to blow up a few enemy waves to gain those early power-ups, and I think if you press the spacebar also it gives you a smart bomb effect. In Overdrive there are at least 15 weapons to collect, and each one of those has a module power, and as we shall see a bit later on we have a certain limited number of power options, and those have to be monitored. You can see some more weapons on the screen. We have a forward cluster, and we have left, right, up and down kind of blaster, and that thing is pretty limited, and I think we can collect power-ups which will give us multi-way fire in the game itself. And you can see that holding down the fire button and pulling left and right will enable us to select the different weapons, and this isn't so bad, and it means that we don't have to lunge for that keyboard when we want to change our firepower. Getting back to that title screen and that very relaxing music, let's start a brand new game, and let's select another fighter for this. Another pilot bravely marching into that breach to get blown up for the sake of a few ideals, and I think that we'll select this one. Of course, double click on that, remember, to select it, and then accept that. And then we get treated to another mysterious screen called the loadout screen, where we get to choose different aspects of our ship. And you can see on the printer it gives us some options, and at this stage all we can do is to read a little bit of the itinerary going on, because we don't have a manual for this, and nobody's even seen or heard the game, and there's absolutely no information about this on the internet. So you can see in the manga style we get a pilot and a ship, and below that we gain the drones and firepower on offer, and I think the different drones have different firepower, and some of those I think fly around the ship and are pretty limited, and I think some of these actually attach to the ship and give us extra firepower. I'm not quite sure, but you can see where it says on and off above those, and in the meantime we get to listen to some really funky music, which is great. learning about all these weapons, we also learned that we also have a payload, and once we select too many weapons, then unfortunately that's the loadout, and so you'll have to be in the economy mode when you're trying to find the best route through the game, because if you have too heavy weapons, then you will also find the ship is slow as well. So I have no idea what I'm doing. Obviously I'm just selecting these just to see what mass and what kilogrammage we can actually carry on this thing, and don't forget most of these will fly around the ship, so I can't see what difference it makes. You can see that we can select a different co-pilot, no idea what that makes whatsoever, and we can also click on the ship to get rid of that and select a new ship with a different loadout. The new ship will also give us a new batch of upgrades which we can select, and this one that I've selected wasn't on the previous list, and as far as I know that fires in all the directions all at once, so let's just select as many as we can get away with, and then select the printer in this case to move on to the game itself, which is not intuitive whatsoever. There's some blank screens and another waiting period, we get the first level, and on the first level what we have to do is to attack a battleship, and we gain 3 weapons at the start as you can see, but as we soak up those weapons unfortunately that will use power, and the power can be collected by destroying waves and huge enemies, and sometimes the small enemies don't give us anything at all. On level 1 we are treated to an ocean colour scheme, and the ocean colour scene in this case has revealed some enemies which are very difficult to destroy, but those are really essential to destroy before we get to this battleship. You can see we have some sidearms, and the left and right token at the end of the weapons panel you can see means that this thing fires left and right, and if you notice that as we select different weapons it will show us which way those weapons go, and most weapons either go forward, backwards, left or right, and I really should be toggling to a different weapon by now, but you can see all that we have to do is to destroy the defences of this battleship all the way around it. Unfortunately those weapons are useless because those enemies are now behind, and this forward firing weapon won't kill the enemies from behind, so maybe I can rely on some luck to get rid of those, and maybe I can crash into those as well. But it's far easier to conserve our weapons and to save the side shot, and of course when you lose all your power, all your main power that is, you'll get blown up, and that's one of the side effects of this game. You have so many power meters to keep an eye on, and of course we are down to the last two in fact targets on this battleship, and it's important to blow those up and then you can get back to the game. Unfortunately on this playthrough the sound effects unfortunately took over from the music, and that's why you can hear lots of battleship noises instead of the music. That didn't happen on my subsequent playthroughs, and also it didn't happen that I missed the last 2 targets and missed the chance to blow up the battleship. But you can see now it's too late, we move on and we are still continuing with the same life because we get a number of continues in the game, but you can see once the module power runs out we'll have nothing, and we can't do anything except to hold down the fire button to instigate the smart bomb, and you can see, or you will see, a stick of dynamite when that is the only option. You can see that we have forward firepower at the moment, and again we're supposed to blow these things up to get the firepower energy, otherwise we'll run out pretty quickly, and I'm not sure how many continues that we have in this game, but it's quite a lot. You can see our shield energy is all the way up to the top, but our current power is all the way down, and that will deplete when we fire that weapon. And you can see the module power going all the way down until it runs out. And those things do run out at inopportune moments, and so you'll have to put up with that, and hopefully it makes hay while that sun shines. At the moment we do have some module power, and we do have one drone available, and that thing helps us take care of these enemies. Unfortunately, those enemies do disappear rather quickly, and they do take a lot of hammer, and you have to grab those power-ups as well before they disappear off that screen. It says destroy truck, and eventually it gives us some objectives in these levels, and you can see the arrow in the bottom corner means we've actually got free flight now, and we can take care of that objective on our own. When it moves to blue, it means the computer is now controlling our movement, and that's pretty crazy sometimes, because sometimes we can actually control this thing and sometimes not. Moving over a forest now, we have some power-ups, and the Fs I'm not quite sure what they do, perhaps it's fuel, but we have 4 weapons of the 5 slots, and that means that we have a range that we can choose, and of course the forward beam is supposed to get rid of these enemies in one shot, but it doesn't always work out like that. You can see stage 2 follower is there, and that's what I like to call a drone, and that will cling to the ship and give us some extra firepower. But when our power is getting low anyway, sometimes those modules run out of power even when they aren't being fired, which is slightly strange. So that's why I'm not firing at the moment, trying to conserve that energy for some big bosses a bit later on, and if you collide with something it doesn't lose too much armor at this stage. On the Amiga, I seem to be stuck with no idea what I'm supposed to be doing, so let's just wait for this game to figure out. And yes, we can push forward, and we can actually maneuver our way around these objects and obstacles, and sometimes you don't know what is going to shoot back until it does so, and having done so, it's best to fire straight into that thing and avoid all its bullets, which are nice and orange, yellow and red, so they can always be seen above these different coloured backgrounds. And this is an OCS ECS game, this is not AGA, and it really does take care of those backgrounds, and a lot better than some shooters that we've seen already. See at the top it says going on location, and I'm not quite sure if those things are the stage names and whether if we continue we'll continue from this spot. But I do know that we are still alive and we are choosing the weapons and investigating what all those do, and it's possible to get more power in that weaponry, which means with the forward blaster it gives it a bit more blast hopefully, and that means it can fire very well and very hard onto these targets. But you can see it's very difficult sometimes when the screen is moving around to figure out where you're supposed to be going and destroy all the batteries. Well, I thought batteries came in packs of ever ready, and I'm not quite sure what he's talking about when those gun emplacements seem to be disappearing off the top of that screen, and here they are. this game it lets you go back but not to all of the areas, so it is possible to mop up all of those enemies, but it's not always possible to clean up all those power-ups. And you can see that we are, well, no way, not enough mines were destroyed. You will die before the end. Great. And so that means that we need to go back and we continue the level, and our new objective is to fly up the river like River Raid until we get to a bridge, and then that takes on to that next section. And at this stage I'm trying to conserve power as much as possible, which is counterintuitive, and of course if you destroy these things they're supposed to give you the firepower to fight back. It's quite difficult, but it's not hard at the same time, and if we avoid these bullets it means we can survive and we don't have to destroy anything. Overdrive reminds me of a bullet hell game in the fact that some amount of bullets will be filling that screen, especially on the later levels, but at this stage the music and the atmosphere and the smoothness remind me of a very smooth and slow game, and so it's the slow, smoothest bullet hell game on the Amiga. And you can see that not much is happening at the moment, and that means that I'm not getting any power-ups either, and at this stage it's important to get all that firepower for a bit later on. And let's just take the bridge hopefully and take it easy around these enemies and hopefully power up a little bit more. To say this game is confusing is a bit of an understatement, and I've no idea where I'm going, and I'm just following the automatic arrow on the bottom of that screen and hope that I'm going in the right direction. And the music doesn't really change when big bosses are about to appear on the screen. In fact, sometimes there are periods where nothing appears on the screen, and because it's manually operated sometimes you might think that you're going in completely the wrong direction. But I'm going to bear this out and see how far it gets, because these levels are absolutely huge and I've no idea how far I'm getting because I haven't seen a long play of this game. The problem is because it is a free-flowing game and we can change our mind as to which way that screen goes. Well, sometimes we can be stuck around that landscape, and we can be stuck as to what we are supposed to be doing at any given time. But I guess once you've played these levels and explored them a few times, then you'll be able to negotiate your way all the way to the end of it. And you can see that I'm making my way to the top corner, and it says you have total control now. And that's great, it means that we can wander even more blindly into danger. Those continues have been used up, and I think we get 3, then it's on to that high score table where we can view all the other high scores and enter our name as well. And so you can see that I had a very quick warm-up go and then reset this and started the recorder because I've no idea about this game. I simply recorded a brand new try, and you can see that that's my first proper try of the first level. But in this game, just like a Rick Dangerous game, it actually gives us the option to choose more than the first level from the go, and it also gives us the option to replay the same level, and I think this actually replays us all the way back at the very start of level 1. Even though it doesn't look familiar, it returns to the water, and that's, well, level 1 is the water basically, so you'll basically have to replay the whole level all over again. And that seems rather boring, so we're going to skip that and we're going to check out level 2, which can be accessed from the options screen, which we get just before the game itself. And it says level, let's select the second level, and that one is in space. And it features a different colour scheme as well, so let's just select a different pilot and let's get on with that mission. After the very atmospheric space intro, we get to move on to that second level where we get another random batch of upgrades and weapons at the beginning, and we'll just have to move our way up the screen this time in that kind of fashion. And this time we get some new triangular weapons and some new things to try out, like these side blasters, and sometimes the followers and the drones can really make the difference as to the different firepower that you have, and if you can maintain those somehow, not quite sure, but you can see we have a time ticking down, and maybe if we stop firing that thing will stop ticking down, and that means we can save the best firepower and hopefully not collide into any of these dead ends. It's not long before we run into our first major boss, and the first major boss I'm using the rebound to hopefully rebound all the way back, and I think that's kind of a boomerang weapon. You can see the arrow in the bottom corner, it says that we've 99, which means we've unlimited, and it rebounds all the way back on us, as you can see. Returning to the familiar territory of the vertical shoot 'em up, it means that I have half a chance at this game because I can usually aim on target, or at least avoid some of the bullets in these vertical shooters. And so yet another boss. These bosses are coming thick and fast, and of course all of those needed to be moved around, and in this game if you don't destroy it, it has an annoying habit of moving off the screen and not giving you any credit for it unless you finish the boss off entirely, and I'm not sure in this case whether that's possible because it takes up a lot of room on that screen. Overdrive contains some impressive graphics, it's just that the music and the sound effects tend to fight over each other for supremacy of the audio, and most of the time the music cuts out to make room for those sound effects. And you saw the level 3 drone there, you pick that up, that is absolutely fantastic, it gives us a huge leg up. So as usual, if you can destroy these guys and get the power-ups early, it means that you'll have a monstrous set of firepower by this stage. This game has great music, and with such a great soundtrack and great graphics and a great firepower going on and huge arsenal of bullets and a bullet hell going on with no slowdown whatsoever, well, you imagine that this game would be a bit more well known than Absolutely Unknown, which it is, and absolutely nobody has seen or played this game. But you can see I can destroy those bullet cannons, and that means that we can survive, and I really do appreciate the fact that we have a shield. And I'm not looking at the shield even though it says shield, I'm simply looking at the power on the power bar, knowing that we only have one amount of red energy left. And yes, let's collect some more of those drones, and I'm not sure how many we can collect, but at least 3 all around that ship. Once again, another big problem with these types of games is I'm not sure what we can hit and what we can't, and if we collide with the scenery we'll take damage. And so rather than veering wildly around the screen, I'm trying to take it the easy way and trying not to waste so much firepower, because these enemies aren't delivering much in terms of energy. We've just basically run out, and that means that we're down to the limited firepower that we had when we started the level. And that is a drawback, but sometimes you can be economical with pressing that fire button, and when I seem to have unlimited these boomerang weapons, it means that, well, hopefully we can take out yet another end of level boss with this, and we have a drone as well. That means it's impossible to beat the boss until we have that firepower, and because of that we've died, and we ended up being just behind our previous score, and that's level 2, and we can attempt all of these levels in any order except for the final one. The final level 4 is also hidden from us until we complete all the others in order. So this is not an easy game, and so if we replay that game, that will replay level 2, or if we select another game, that will take us back to the title screen where we can select another level, and this time it's level 3, and this is a hard level indeed. I'm not quite sure whether we get to carry over the weapons from stage to stage, But I do know if we select a new stage, then I think that we don't go through the weapons upgrades, we just select a new character and then we move on through the level from there. Infacto only created one Amiga game and this was it, and the coder only created this one game. The graphics artist also created the graphics for Dune and also KGB, and those are immense games and there are superb graphics in this game. And the music creator in this case also created the music for Adrenaline for Larissa in 1991. You can see limited animation and limited story, but it does encourage the player to see more of the action. And this game is slightly above the ordinary. It also came on 3 discs and I think any Amiga could play it. Let's move on, let's check out level 3 briefly in this Playguide. Overdrive Civil Defense Unit had absolutely no publicity whatsoever. It was not rated or reviewed in any magazines, and the only place that you can find it is on the Hall of Light and the Lemon Amiga database, and maybe Amiga Lore as well, but apart from that, even the Moby Games website and things like that, but you won't find any long plays or any community footage or people talking about this game because it is unknown. And the only votes that I could find are on Lemon Amiga. 2 people actually voted for this game. I was one of them and we both voted this 7 out of 10. Just before we leave, we also get to see the credits of the game so that you can find out a little bit more about it. Thank you for viewing another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review, and I hope to see you again on another one sometime soon.